Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, y'all. I would like to welcome you to the CRA regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 8th. It is, oh, 5:31. Call the roll, please.
Chairman James.
Here.
Vice Chairman Harris. Here. Board Member Grace.
Here.
Board Member Salvino.
Here.
CRA Director Williams.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to give Board Member Brandon Marty an excused absence.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Citizens' comments. We don't have any citizens' comments. If you are a citizen, you would like to make a comment, please go and get a comment sheet from outside, and please give it to Tom and fill it out. Administrative reports?
Good evening, CRA Board.
Good evening.
I am very happy to report that we had a successful Arts and Seafood Celebration kickoff last Thursday. All of you were in attendance, and we got tremendous feedback from the volunteers and the residents that attended. So we're very happy and excited to move forward with our planning as we wind down. As you know, we have been working very hard to get this event done in a short amount of time, and it's coming together. So I want to report on a few things very, very briefly. Pending the decision made tonight, we will be having a community charrette, and I've done some preliminary scheduling with FIU, and some of you have already decided to meet with FIU May 16th, and whatever conflicts that we have, those will be addressed, and everyone will be scheduled, again, pending a decision tonight. The rebranding initiative is moving forward. At the June 12th City Commission meeting, I will be presenting through the city manager requests authorizing the city to bid for signage replacement, public relations, and advertising services. So you can expect that June 12th. Your business cards were ordered. Many of you have already ordered the apparel. Many city staff members have already ordered apparel. The Public Services Department has ordered the decals for the trucks. So we're moving with the rebranding. I think the main parts of the rebranding effort will come after we are authorized to bid for signage replacement. I think that will be more of a visual change that the residents and members of our community will be able to see that we're rebranding. The art walk, it's 3-3 on the agenda, and you have a flyer and a narrative in front of you to peruse at your pleasure. On May 22nd, a special events permit will be on the City Commission agenda related to the art walk. Again, this is a monthly event. We've started off planning 4 recurring events. If we see some success, we're going to be requesting that the City Commission waive a regulation that prohibits more than 4 recurring events during a fiscal year. So look for that if we're successful, probably in August or September. We have some upcoming events. The Realtors Association is hosting the annual Mayor's Breakfast and Municipal Expo. That will be May 11th, and Mayor James will be in attendance, and the CRA will be there to participate in the expo and to promote the City of Dania Beach. We also have a grand reopening for one of our commercial facade grant recipients. That is the Global Learners Academy, formerly the Collins Market. And we've been in touch with the Collins family, and they really want to make it a special event, even more significant than some of our other grand openings, because as you know, there was a death in the family, and they really want to honor the family member who passed away. So those are just a few of the upcoming events. Moving into arts and seafood, if I may. The update provided in your package really summarizes where we are. This will be your final update prior to the event. When I requested that the CRA board approve having this event, I promised that we would cut the net operating cost in half. Last year, net operating was $120,000. We are on track to come in at half of that, or even less, which would be $60,000 net operating. So We are tracking very well with our sponsors. We have sponsorship commitments at $46,000. We anticipate that we'll be receiving checks for at least 90% of that commitment level. We have 83 artists who have signed up. 65 of them have already paid. So we're looking at about $20,000 just from artist fees alone. We also want to make sure that we highlight our in-kind sponsors, and you'll see some of that happen on the day of the event, and we'll be doing a special rebranding segment on Saturday of the event. So are there any questions on arts and seafood?
I have a question. Seeing as though we have moved away from the tickets, are they still going to be required to have things for purchase that are less expensive than what it was before?
Absolutely. All food vendors are still required to have reasonably priced options. They've been told to have a $8 item, at least one $8 item. We are not doing the tickets anymore. However, we have a guaranteed minimum contribution from food sales of $7,500. We expect to get more, but that's the minimum based on the number of food vendors that have paid their deposits.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
That's it?
I just wanted to mention for those in the community that are watching right now, if you're interested in participating in the Dania After Dark Art Walk, you can contact our event producer, Chris Gadry, at Atlantic Studios, and his email is info@atlanticstudios.com. We're also going to be promoting that on our web platforms and social media. So if you're a member of the community that would like to be a food vendor, perform, sell, please contact us because we want as many locals to participate as possible. That's it for my report.
Okay, presentations, back to back.
Good evening again, CRA Board.
Okay.
So, back in January, I stood before you right here, and I made a request that the CRA Board consider the 6 lots that the City of Dania Beach had been considering for surplus. And I asked that those lots be conveyed to the CRA for the purpose of affordable single-family housing. And since then, I have been putting together a program that addresses many of the residential concerns within the community redevelopment area. And so I've put together a program proposal called At Home Dania Beach. And this program is more robust and comprehensive than just the development of those 6 lots. This program addresses many of the areas that are of concern within the CRA area. So the reason why it's titled At Home is because I'd like everyone in this community to feel at home where they live. I would like everyone to feel pride in their community, to feel like they have a vested interest and stake in their community, and want to work, live, play, and experience a high quality of life. So the program goals are to remove slum and blight, beautify, facilitate and attract new development and private investment, and foster neighborhood pride. There are 5 major components to the program. One is residential beautification, acquisition and disposition, development, home ownership, and an affordable housing trust fund. So one of the main things I wanted to do was ensure that we are authorized to do what is being proposed. Now, there are several steps that the CRA Board and City Commission has taken thus far. The CRA Board has approved a CRA plan adopted in 2015. The City Commission has also adopted it. And there are Florida statutes and portions of the CRA plan that speak specifically to affordable housing development and other residential beautification programs. And these are just some of them that are listed. Page 3 of the CRA plan lists all the goals. Page 83 and 84 lists programs that the CRA can facilitate. Page 23 talks about policy guidelines, and page 77 talks about strategies. So at your leisure, you can peruse the CRA plan and look in detail about what these strategies, guidelines, goals, and programs entail. CRA by the numbers. Approximately 30% of the population of the city of Dania Beach resides in the CRA. There's average household size of 2.41, which is lower than the city's, the city's average is higher. We also have 52.5% African Americans, 41% white. We have 14.6 that identify as Hispanic. Our median household income is $30,308. The city is higher at $40,649. About 44% of the residents in the CRA are below the poverty line of $24,858. There are 3,700 housing units within the CRA. Citywide, there are 13,157 housing units. The housing stock is pretty old, with 59% of the housing units being developed prior to 1970. We have a vacancy rate of 19%. Of the units that are occupied, 27% are owner occupied, and 54% are renter occupied. So you can see that there's a significant amount of renters in the CRA area, and this demonstrates to me that there's a need to increase owner occupancy and housing opportunities for home ownership. So the at-home program has 5 elements or 5 strategies, as mentioned before, and the diagram here really reflects that these are simultaneous strategies. One does not necessarily come before the other. They can all pretty much happen at the same time. And I think you need a multifaceted approach, because just targeting one area won't do the trick, and it hasn't done the trick. So the first strategy is beautification. Now, what I've noticed in the CRA area since coming on board is that there's a general lack of curb appeal. When you drive through many of the CRA neighborhoods, there's not as an attractive look as in some of the other neighborhoods within the city of Dania Beach. Now, when you increase curb appeal, that increases pride in the community. When you see something beautiful, you want to be beautiful as well. You want to keep it looking nice. That will encourage residents and potential new residents that are looking to come into the area, that will encourage them to invest. Curb appeal also increases the value, or at least the perceived value, of a home. If you have 2 options to buying a home, you're probably going to pick the house that looks nicer on the outside. All things being equal, all other things, price the same number of bedrooms and baths, but when you look at the outside, if one looks better than the other, you're likely to go with the one that looks better. The beautification program that I'm proposing is a grant program for residents, both for homesteaded properties and non-homesteaded properties. Now, this is important to distinguish. I would like to provide grants of $2,500 for painting and/or landscaping. So these are exterior improvements, similar to what we do with our commercial property improvement program. But because we have such a high rate of renters, I think that we also need to assist those properties. So I'm proposing a lower grant amount of $1,500 for non-owner occupied properties. And I'm suggesting that we do 20 homes per year, and that for non-homesteaded properties, the property owner can only apply for 1 grant per year. Now, the CRA would approve the contractors, so we would engage with 2 or 3 painting and landscaping contractors for each category, so that we know that we have high quality workers that are going to follow through and have all the insurance requirements in place. And the CRA would be dealing with them directly. Of course, homeowners will be the ones applying, and those tenants who would like to participate in the program, they would also need to apply through the homeowner of the property. We also want to provide paint colors and require that the landscaping include native trees that do not require a lot of maintenance or watering, because we don't want to plant beautiful things that cannot be maintained and, you know, have people worried about their water bills. There will be a requirement. You have to have moderate income. So the income limits are here listed for you. If you're in a household with 3 people, your income limit is $87,360. So in order to qualify, we need to see proof of income. Our next strategy is acquisition and disposition. Yes.
1 second.
Yes.
They can make less than 87,000, correct?
Correct. That's
Okay.
the income limit, the maximum that they can earn.
Okay. I was gonna say.
You kind of
in the
frightened
wrong-
me when you said
Board Member
87. I said,
Salvino?
that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Raquel, can we ask questions on this while you're doing this, before we go down?
Sure.
You and I had talked about the maintenance on the property, and I've been thinking a lot about, you know, the program and the way it's working. You know, when you do landscaping, obviously it takes water bills, and people that would have water, it's going to raise their, you know, they're going to have to pay more money in their pocket. And we also talked about contributions from the homeowners like we do the businesses. You know, I think the idea is good. I just think that we need to maybe work on a way that there's a participation involved. With that, you know, when you start talking about painting, you know, some of the things that come into play is when they go to paint, and now what happens if they have rotten wood on the facial board? You know, and certain things that may cause the $2,500 to go over, the $1,500 to go over. You know, are they prepared to pay for that if we can do that? There's little incidentals that are going to pop up on this program, but I think you're right. I think it could be an infectious program that would work. But I think we might need to detail it a little bit more.
Absolutely. And you'll see that there's a 15-page narrative in your package that goes into more depth and detail about these programs. And I think that every application will need to be evaluated prior to approval. So if we see that, hey, you need a lot more work done than we can provide.
Yeah. If they were willing to put that out and just take that grant money, and like they even put, you know, that's a help to them, would that be okay to do that? They, you know, if they even had to contribute as much, would that be all right with the application?
I think that we could look at mechanisms for a small contribution, but being that we have the income limits that we do have, I think we don't want to be cost prohibitive to participation. And I think that we're targeting a population that likely doesn't already have what it takes to do the proper maintenance, but we could look at a small contribution to offset some of the costs, similar to what we do with the business grants.
Board Member Grace?
I think that Commissioner Salvina has a valid point. I've realized that when we started painting our seniors' homes, we ran into a lot of these problems that he's talking about. The gutters needed to be replaced, the wire that fits underneath the wood area. So we worked out an agreement with Home Depot that actually went into partnership with us, and then we got some of the people that worked on houses with different developers to come in and donate their time to take that rotten wood and stuff away, and then to replace it with new. Some of the people that we had do it was some of the people that work with Dania Economic and Development, John Bartley, some of the people that work with him. So we were able to do that because I think we're spending money unwisely if we just go in and paint over something like that. So at the same time, we tried to upgrade to make sure. And then we ran into a problem where we had, at the same time that we were painting and replacing the wood, some of the doors were rotted out, so we had to go back and reframe the doors and put that in. So I'm sure that once we get to it, every house will be a little different, but as we're going to be talking later on at the city commissioner meeting, there's some of the ideas that you're talking about here. I'm working on with another agency that will be doing the same thing, and I think we can upgrade it all, and next 5 years you'll see a tremendous difference, especially with that being in the area that we have Dania Point coming online, and all of those homes need to be have a facelift, and inside and outside. So it's a very good concept that you have.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Any other comment? Okay. So, acquisition and disposition, so that's our next strategy. And essentially, the city has already begun through various means of acquiring vacant parcels within the community redevelopment area. And so when I talk about acquisition and disposition, this is not just for the 6 lots that the CRA has, but it is really a broader approach, and whatever is determined by you as a board or you as a commission, I would hope that you consider some of these elements in however you decide to move forward with the lots that are not currently deeded to the CRA. So the first sub-point for acquisition and disposition is neighbors first. Now, some of the lots that are currently being considered for surplus, they are very tiny. Some of them are not fit for development. Some of them are almost like little easements, and the likelihood that you're going to get someone to buy a property like that is very slim, because there's not a whole lot of uses that you're going to be able to get out of it. So my recommendation, and also with following Florida statutes and the city charter, if there's any way that we could look at a neighbors first opportunity. So if you live next door to a little sliver of city-owned land or publicly owned land, I think that there should be some way for neighbors on the same block or adjoining to that parcel to be able to have that property transferred to them, and they have to maintain it, and they can be used as gardens or passive open space that's landscaped, but it would take the burden off of the city from maintaining those properties, especially if you see that there's not going to be a lot of interest from the development community.
Board Member Grace.
Director, every lot basically in the CRA area is an undersized lot. It has always been that way, and because of how they really chopped it up to make them small, because the history is basically all of those lots were migrant camp workers' homes. which were very tiny. The Dania Economic and Development Corporation, when we purchased a lot of the lots, had trouble trying to put a house on those lots because of the undersize. But there is a way to have the easements and working with Mark LaFerria's office to make it conducive, to make it work. We had some properties that we had to merge. So we bought the two properties and then made one house on it. So we had to do a lot of that. But then there were at least 17 homes that we were able to, when people said we couldn't put a house on that lot, we proved them wrong, and then once we built that house, we let them come and see what we did, and they were actually surprised. So we just have to put on thinking cap, think outside the box, but make it very livable and what is the word I want to use? Space wise for the people that are going to be buying it. Mm-hmm. In other words, when we had a proposal for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, we scaled it down to make it a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there are ways that not adding the carport on it if we didn't have to, especially if they didn't have a car. There are some options that we can look at, and I'm sure once we get to that point. But every lot in the northwest section just about is undersized.
I'm in agreement with what you are describing. Most of the lots are about 50 by 98, 50 by 100, but the lots,
some less.
there are just a few that can't even have a bathroom, much less a house or a carport. So there are a few that are just very, very, very tiny, and there's no vacant parcel next to it to merge the lots. So I'm in agreement with what you're saying. The lots that I'm describing are very, very, tiny. Very small.
Board Member Savino?
How tiny is the width on that?
We're looking at some lots that are about 15 wide.
Yeah, that's tiny.
Okay.
So
They even made those as a lot, huh?
I have a question. For the ones that you are describing as tiny, that you feel or we feel that a house cannot be put there, is it a possibility that we could make that into like how they did the linear park? Like when you say open space, I would really rather us not leave it on the person and give that to the next home buyer. It's a lot of turnover nowadays. I would rather like have some workout stations or something. Like we don't have any of those in that CRA area. Rather, if it's really small and it makes sense, or put some benches there with some nice landscaping or something like that. I agree with the open space. If you can't fit a house there, to do something that is going to keep our, aren't we a part of this healthy community, neighborhood and things like that, so that people can be active outside of their homes?
That is definitely an option, and if the city administration would be agreeable to that and would like to take over maintenance of those pocket parks or linear parks, I think it's a great point of discussion. Okay, so for the larger lots, and this is, again, not just the ones that are being considered now, not just the ones that CRA has, but any future lots that are vacant within the community redevelopment area, I think that in line with Florida statutes and the CRA plan, that affordable housing should be the priority for development on those lots, meaning housing that is affordable to residents of the CRA and the broader city of Dania Beach based on their income and their household size. So the lots that the CRA currently has and those that the city has, if those lots are to be disposed of, my recommendation is that a restrictive covenant be tied to those lots to ensure that affordable housing runs through the life of the land. So no matter how many times it gets transferred, we make sure that it's affordable housing and the people that are allowed to buy meet those income requirements. Because as we have all this growth and development, you mentioned Dania Point earlier, we will need affordable and workforce housing to support this new growth. We will need to have housing opportunities for the folks that work in our hotels and restaurants and our businesses. So for sure, for parcels within the CRA, I think affordable housing should and can be the option for development through restrictive covenants. Now, the restrictive covenants should include development standards and home ownership standards, and your package talks about a baseline for what that will include, and it's also included on our next slide when we get into development. Now, the targeted neighborhoods for development of affordable housing and where there's the most opportunity is Sun Garden Isles, which is the green portion on the map, and College Gardens, which is the blue portion on the map. These are two CRA neighborhoods. Sun Garden Isles in particular has the most vacant lots, both publicly and privately owned. And so there's opportunity there for more acquisition through those private owners, as well as development on the publicly owned land. The development standards that I mentioned before as a baseline should include the desired square footage based on the lot size, amenities and characteristics, construction methods, green building practices and energy efficiency, high performance and sustainable materials, a fixed sales price to the developer or unless it's being transferred for minimal consideration, fixed sales price to the homeowner, and a time frame for development. So I think these things, if possible, should be included in either the covenant or agreement that allows the transfer of these parcels to anyone seeking to own them. So for the CRA lots, I've been doing a lot of research and having a lot of opportunities to meet with folks in the development community, and in my prior experience, I've worked with affordable housing development providers and financiers. So I found one of the challenges with building homes right now is affordability, not just for the buyers, but for the builders. Now, there are many nonprofits and private entities who have expressed interest in the lots that the CRA has and would like to develop. However, many of them do not have the upfront capital to finance the projects, nor does the CRA have the capital to finance the projects. I have been able to reach out to a high capacity foundation that has a suitable enough line of credit to take on all 6 parcels and use local developers or contractors to do the work and not have to worry about funding the project up front. Now, there are some nonprofits who are interested and may have the capital, but we're not sure when, given that they are tied up with other development projects, particularly the 40 Homes project that Broward County is facilitating at this time. So this is a rough outline of how I think we should go about developing those lots. First, we should initiate development standards, and this won't be finalized until later in the process. And then the CRA will partner with lenders, housing counseling agencies in Broward County to cultivate eligible home buyers. Because what we don't want to have happen is to have homes built, but no one qualified to get into those homes. We'd like to have a cachet of ready-to-go buyers prior to the homes being fully developed, so that once they are, we can immediately go into contract for sale. Then we would transfer the properties to a high-capacity foundation for minimal consideration as an incentive and as an investment. Because in the model that I'm proposing, the CRA would not only recoup the value of the land, but 5% of the purchase price of the property. The foundation would partner with the local developers to construct homes, and the CRA would have final approval of whomever these local developers are. The approximate price per square foot that I'm using as an estimate is $110. Many nonprofits have quoted lower than that. However, the type and quality of the housing that I'd like to see and the materials that I'd like to see necessitates a higher price per square foot. Afterward, final development standards, design guidelines, and plans would be approved by the CRA. Contracted developers will begin to seek approvals and permits. Construction will begin. The CRA will then accept applications from eligible potential buyers, because remember, we've already started to cultivate them now through our home buyer education programs. We've already partnered with lenders, maybe 3 to 5 lenders in Broward County. And so now we're at the process where we can accept applications and then select through a lottery system. I think that's the most fair way to do it. Then construction is completed and the homes can be sold to those selected eligible buyers, and the sales price will not exceed $210,000. Then the proceeds will be split between that nonprofit or foundation and the CRA. The local developers will have already gotten their payments through the foundation for constructing the property. So here you see example number 1 here of a 1,400 square foot home. In your package, there's an example number 2 for a smaller home of 1,200 square feet with a sales price $10,000 less than in example 1. But you see we have the land value. We have a fixed final sales price. 5% of that sales price is that $10,500. After the sale, the CRA would receive $35,000. The foundation or the prime nonprofit would, after the sale, have revenue of $174,500. However, their expenses, development costs and developer fees would be about $154,000, given that $110 per square foot model. The foundation's return on investment would be about $20,000. Now, what I've seen in other places is that when you do infill development, that new home wedged between 2 old homes looks great, and the homes next door are lacking. So in order to preserve the block, as you see here in this slide, we would offer $2,500 worth of improvements, whether landscaping, painting, or both, to help those residents in the homes next door, across the street. And based on the locations of the lots that the CRA has, we'll need 12 homes to be assisted in that manner. Now, what happens with this, and what I've seen happen, is now the neighbors are more vested in that development project. Now when people are coming to try to break in and steal from the new home, the neighbors aren't having it because they know that the success of that home is tied to their success as well, and that they're going to be benefiting from it as well. So they'll call and say, hey, somebody just drove by, at midnight, and we didn't know who it was. And so that way you reduce some of those incidents of theft and vandalism that often happens with projects that are going through the development process.
Is this a one-time cost?
Yes, this is.
Okay.
This is specifically tied to the lots that we're seeking to
Okay,
develop through the
okay.
CRA. Now, I would propose this as well as a model for any future development projects. So any other lots that are developed, whether by the city or whomever, I would recommend taking this approach because it really does build that buy-in from the community. Okay, so our next strategy is home ownership. Now, we're building these homes in order for people to purchase them, not to be given a home, but to purchase a home. In order to be ready for home ownership, residents within the CRA who are interested, they need to be educated on home ownership. What does it mean to be a homeowner? What is needed in order to become a homeowner? What are ways to fix your credit, to manage your finances that will make you more eligible and likely to qualify for not just these 6, but maybe something else that you see available. Or maybe down the road, you know, there's something that you see is available to you for purchase, but we want to make sure that we get everyone ready for this opportunity because there are lots of interests coming to the city of Dania Beach, and that's wonderful. But how do we make sure that all the growth and development that we're seeing really spreads to the existing residents? And one way to do that is through education. Homebuyer eligibility. According to the CRA plan, any opportunities for affordable housing must go to existing CRA residents as a first priority, and then as a second priority, residents of the larger city of Dania Beach. Now, if we find that through the application and eligibility process that we do not have enough applicants that are coming from the CRA and becoming eligible, then we would open it up to City of Dania Beach residents as a second priority. These purchasers must be first-time homebuyers, meaning that they should not have owned a property in the last 3 years. Low income, you must not go over 80% of the area median income, and that amount is set by HUD each year. I am recommending that a credit score of 680 be the requirement, and for some that may seem low, for others it may seem a little high, but I think we want to encourage folks to be responsible with their finances, and so requiring a credit score of 680, I think will weed out some of the applicants that may not be ready for the commitment of home ownership. You must be able to secure a first mortgage, and we will partner with lenders in Broward County. Many of them are already on Broward County's list of approved lenders, and the home buyer should be able to secure at least 3% of the purchase price for down payment, whether through assistance or other means. When going through the pre-qualification process, the lenders will look at whether or not the homeowner has that 3%. Down payment assistance. This is a major part of affordable housing because what we find with most folks that are at 80% AMI or below, they don't have a savings of $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, and that is the case for even folks at a higher income level. We don't want the down payment to be a hurdle for folks to participate in this program. When you look at the first table, this is talking about home purchase financing. So for someone who's low income at that 80% level, they will likely be able to qualify for a mortgage between $165 and $175. Okay. Now, if the purchase price for the home is $210, because we want a high quality product, but still affordable, then the gap between the mortgage and the purchase price is about $40,000. In order to assist through down payment, I have contacted Broward County's Housing Finance Division, and they have assured me that individual applicants from the city of Dania Beach, because we're one of the small cities, they will be entitled to apply for $20,000 through Broward County's program. Now, for the 40 homes that Broward County is doing, they're actually offering $60,000
Yes, they are.
for down payment assistance. But that's because that's their own program. So what they've said is that they can do $20,000. Now, every year, the City of Dania Beach is allocated funds for CDBG, and what the folks at Broward County mentioned to me is that what we can do is allocate some of that for down payment assistance if that is desired by the City Commission, or we can look at having those who are applying for the properties to come up with the shortfall. In addition, I'm recommending that the City of Dania Beach's CRA contribute $10,000 toward down payment assistance. Now, the reason that I'm recommending this is because at the county level, when they see that cities have the investment in the program, they are more likely to make their resources available. So they like to see that cities are participating. Now, for entitlement cities, larger cities like Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Broward County doesn't allocate funds to them for down payment assistance because they already are getting those funds directly from the state or the federal government. So for smaller cities, Broward assists in that way, but they also like to see that the smaller cities are putting in as well. So we're looking at potential down payment assistance sources totaling up to $40,000. Now again, if we're not able to set aside some of the CDBG allocation, perhaps we ask that the homeowners come up with $10,000. I don't know how feasible it is for low-income folks at 80% AMI, but that's something that we can explore. But for sure, I would like to request that the CRA contribute $10,000 per home for these eligible home buyers, which is pretty consistent with many other down payment assistance programs offered by other cities and CRAs.
And that will be the 6 homes, that's $60,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
Board Member Salvino?
What?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? I noticed on the frame before that, that you were talking about, before you got to this, that you were taking the profit of the $30,000 and you were asking to disperse that at $2,500 a home. Is that right? The $30,000 you showed us where it came from, right?
I'm sorry. This one?
Yes.
This slide? Okay.
Where
yes.
did that 30,000 come from? Is probably the one in front of it.
So in this slide, it says CRA will be a good neighbor and reinvest
Right, but
profits.
the 30,000 you had, there was a 10 and a 20 from the slide before. Is that right?
Well, the $30,000, after the sale of 2 homes, we will
Right.
have more than
That's what I'm
$30,000.
saying,
So
that
we,
sale of the home.
we just need one sale to,
Okay.
to
I
get the
understand. One
30,000.
sale gives you 30,000. You'd ask to disperse it at $2,500 a home, times 12 homes. But then you go to the next slide, and then on top of giving that profit away that you have there, now you're asking for another $10,000 out of the CRA money to help out again.
Well,
So why? I mean,
What I'm proposing to do is reinvest.
no,
the
I
do-
understand what
the
you're
dollars.
reinvesting. What I'm asking is though, instead of giving the $2,500 to 12 times the $30,000, and you're talking about trying to help a home buyer to come in there, and you're saying that this 10,000 may not be enough. Instead of dispersing, I know you're trying to improve the houses, but why not take maybe half of that 30,000 and apply it toward the homeowner to buy the homes, to give them more of a helping hand? Because I'm looking at the fact that they have to have so much money to move in there. The first thing on there, the home purchase financing, looks like it's requiring 20% down for an individual to get into the home without any assistance. And then the second one, you're talking about everybody assisting, but they're also going to have 3%, which is $6,000 or $7,000 out of pocket, and they have to qualify, correct?
So when you look at the down payment assistance sources, those are maximum amounts. So let's say the county only had 18,000. Let's say we could only get $9,000 out of CDBG because CDBG is allocated every year, so we're not sure exactly how much that's
much it's
going to
gonna
be. So these are approximations of a maximum.
So that means they would be
So
short, though.
the homeowner would for sure have to come up with something at
Right.
the closing
Okay,
table.
what I'm trying to say, though, is I mean, if the homeowners you're trying to get them in there, instead of dispersing the other money to individuals, you know, maybe it would be more practical, because of some of the things we were talking about, of that maybe more problems that they'd incur that 2,500 wouldn't cover, to maybe help them with getting into the home. That way, you see what I'm saying? Put more funds that way.
That point is well taken. I think,
Makes sense?
to summarize what I think you're describing is that we reduce our investment in the other strategies
Well, maybe. I'm
to,
not, you know,
to
just
focus those dollars on down payment assistance.
try to help them get in the house, right?
Okay. So that's taking from the beautification portion, from the preserve the block,
I think-
that sort of thing?
I think that you might be able to, though, if you have a certain amount of lots that you're building on, you don't have to do it on every single one. I think there's an opportunity there that you might be able to help someone that's struggling to get it. It might help out. I don't know if every plan has to be the same or not, but it may be, maybe on the beautification part of it, that we use maybe one house for profit for that, and the next profit to help maybe 2 or 3 people get into a house. Take that 30 and break it down into tens.
Well, one thing that I recognize in the development process, and is pretty standard anywhere you go, is that the more projects that you have being developed at one time, the cheaper it is for the person or the developer doing the project, because they can bring in all the materials. They don't have to go one by one by one by one and kind of just do it all at the same time, and it's kind of like cheaper by the dozen. So if we take that approach to wanting to stagger the development to allow for a sale that will help
That's not what I was saying.
to pay for the,
No, that's not what I
I'm
was
sorry, I
saying.
don't understand.
I'm just saying that when you can build all of them at one time, that's fine. I'm just saying the profit, the $30,000 profit, instead of taking all 6 lots or 8 lots or whatever you're going to build a house on, if you take one house, the $30,000 profit that we have, instead of giving it back at 12 houses, maybe if you sold one house and did that on one of the beautifications, but take the other 30,000 and break it into tens on the second sale, and maybe help 3 homeowners get it by giving them $10,000 more each on the
Okay.
assistance.
I think I understand what you're saying, and I just want to make sure that you
Let's see
are
if we can
understanding
just-
that the $30,000 is a one-time thing.
I thought that was per house that you were making that on.
No, This slide? This?
No,
Oh, okay, the 35 per block?
He's
per-
talking about the $35,000 that the CRA is going to end up receiving
Right.
per home in revenue, correct?
right.
Okay,
So it's on, if you go back,
yes, okay. Okay, I understand.
okay.
Okay, I mean, it's just trying to diversify it in other ways that maybe we can help them out a little bit more, because I don't know how the beautification, what we're discussing, I don't know how much we can help all of them out, because some of those houses may not be,
As
you
bad
can't,
as
you
others.
can't, you can't fix it for $2,500, and that may hurt a little bit, unless we do some, I mean, it's just open for discussion. I just would like to see someone not get turned away if they're $6,000 short or $5,000 short.
Understood, and the intent is to help, as many as we can within our budget limitations, and we definitely wouldn't want to
Does that make sense?
throw away any of our dollars towards projects that need a lot more financial resources to make them feasible. So
Okay.
yes, we can look at that.
Okay.
Board Member Grace?
Chairperson, have you reached out to Washington to find out whether SHIP dollars are available? Because I know that for a fact, in the past, they were not giving SHIP dollars. 2007, I think it's the last house that we built in here, Daniel Economic Development with SHIP dollars, and then that went away. But I understand now it's back, the SHIP dollars. So have you had an opportunity to check to see whether any of those funds are available, or?
Well, the funds that are available are going to be allocated through Broward County because
Okay,
we're not an
that's
entitlement city.
local. That's not, that's not Washington. Washington is the SHIP dollars, so.
So SHIP is a state of Florida program.
Mhm.
CDBG is a federal program. So any SHIP dollars will be coming from the state
Okay.
and allocated to Broward County because we're not an entitlement city. We're one of the small cities, so
Okay,
that's how they do it.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the final strategy is an affordable housing trust fund, and this may seem like something very novel, but it's in the CRA plan as a strategy, as well as other municipalities or counties have done it. And considering that the city of Dania Beach is in a growth period, I think it's worth taking a look at. So an affordable housing trust fund would take a look at the mixed-use zoning districts and would allow for a pay in lieu of sort of program. So if you came in with a project and you decided not to have an affordable housing component, then there would be a payment in lieu of affordable housing, similar to the tree preservation trust fund that the city currently has, and that's for replacement and relocation of trees. So if a large-scale project, and the city commission, and with the help of city administration, could come up with a formula that would dictate to these private developers, if you decide that affordable housing is not what you want to do, and based on the fact that the city is in dire need of affordable housing, then there's a payment in lieu of that would go into a trust fund that would help to support some of the other strategies that are listed here. So it would be a pool of funds that we could use to do further acquisition, development, beautification, and anything else that would lift the residential climate within the CRA and the city at large.
Board Member Grace?
There is a resolution that's already out there that does this. Fort Lauderdale and Hallandale Beach has that component. For the last 2 years, I've been asking the city manager to get with the city attorney so that we can kind of pool their resources, have them send us that resolution so we can take a look at it, so that we can implement that with developers that are coming into the city of Dania Beach as a component. That will work. That's an excellent avenue for us. It really is.
I would like to go even further and I don't know about having a trust fund, but what I was bringing to you today was to have a resolution for workforce housing, period. That it has to be mandated in here, and what I want to be careful of is creating this trust in lieu of fund that big money developers can pay that and still build their developments, and we still will have the same issue of workforce housing unless it's just such a large fee that they don't want to pay that fee. But that is something that we are, like you said, we're facing right now. We have a lot of developments, beautiful developments that are coming here. There are a lot of our residents that can't even afford to live or stay in these places, and so I'm going to be coming before you and the commission with, I have to do some more research and looking into other cities that have resolutions that have that involve workforce housing in their cities, because we have very limited workforce housing here, if any, and compared to the amount of developments that we have going.
I agree. So
Okay.
if you'd like to collaborate on that or get any more information from me, or I
Yes,
can
I'll
get some
get it
from
for
you.
you.
Okay,
I'll get it for
thanks.
you, and you can look through it.
Okay, so this last slide is essentially a summary of the program components and the cost impacts or revenue that could be generated from implementing the strategies that we've been discussing this evening. So the home beautification, if we were to do 20 homes, and remember it's 2,500 or 1,500. So this expense is the maximum that it could be at 2,500 for each home. It could definitely be less depending on the number of non-homesteaded properties that are accepted into the program. The preserve the block for the neighbors of the properties that will be built. That's $30,000. Down payment assistance for each home buyer for the 6 homes, $60,000. Potential legal or real estate services, professional services that may be needed to make sure that we do things in order, $10,000. And that's probably a little higher than it probably needs to be. Home buyer and homeowner education courses, so not just for those looking to purchase a home, but for those who are already in their homes. One of the things I also noticed I failed to mention is that there are existing homeowners who are losing their homes, or families that are losing homes,
Absolutely.
because they don't understand, if you do a reverse mortgage, this,
Absolutely.
this
A,
has
B, and
certain
C is
consequences.
required.
Or
Have one more.
if you're in a home and you don't pay the taxes, if a home is left to an heir and they don't realize they need to pay the property taxes by a certain date, that someone can come and get a tax lien and that house will be gone. So we're seeing a lot of homes going to the private sector. We have a lot of LLCs that are taking over homes or purchasing properties in the area. And I think part of that, again, is a lack of education. What I found is that most of the housing counseling agencies in Broward County, well, all of them, operate outside of Dania Beach. There's no agency within the city of Dania Beach, and that may be one of the reasons that we're not getting our residents educated in the way that they need to be. So I'm looking at having 2 courses, one for home buyers and one for existing homeowners, and having those classes take place right here at City Hall, and that's an estimate of $5,000. So on the revenue side, once we have those 6 properties developed, on average, the ad valorem taxes and non-ad valorem assessments are about $833 per home. So you'd be looking at $5,000 coming into the city once those homes are developed. We're also looking at, upon the sale of the 6 homes, that there would be revenue above $200,000 for the CRA to help to perpetuate and implement these programs on an ongoing basis. So really, the investment of the land value that we have can really yield us a whole lot, not just in revenue, but in lifting the aesthetic of the CRA and instilling neighborhood pride.
I have a question about this program. Is there any place or anywhere in the guidelines that that state that you cannot sell your home within 5 or 10 years if you're going to get this assistance from the city? Because I would really hate, for us to invest in the community like we should be doing, but then for them to turn around and flip the home. That's not, especially if they're buying the home for $200,000, say for instance, and the developer really wants your home, they're going to pay you $300,000 for your home. And so I want to make sure that we have strict guidelines and rules for what we're planning to do here.
Yes, there will be deed restrictions that go with the properties, similar to our commercial improvement property program. Once you receive a grant, you cannot sell within 2 years, or you have to return the grant funds. So we will have that in place. I haven't determined whether 5 years or 10 years what is appropriate. Industry standard is pretty much 10 years for homes, depending on the amount of down payment assistance that you receive.
Right.
In addition, the properties that get beautified with the paint or landscaping, I propose 2 years to be in the home. That may be stringent. Maybe we could look at something else if that's the
You
desire.
mean 2 years before they can sell it?
Yeah, that's.
Or have to return the 2,500.
No, I want it to be more than 2
It
years.
has to be.
I want it to be way more than 2 years. If we're
Okay.
putting this, what's happening now, and especially, I know people that losing their homes for $7,000 that they didn't know in tax money. I know people whose grandmothers have passed away and left there. Like you said, it's a lot of that happening in the CRA district. I know a lot of that. So not only that, I want to make sure that they can't rent their houses out. I don't want them to buy this house and then now they're renting this house out, and we're doing a major service to the community and investing in them, and I don't want them to turn around and flip these properties and make money off the city.
Right. So the homes must be owner occupied for whatever that time period is. With the 2 years for the beautification, I tried to mirror the commercial property improvement grant, which we give $20,000 to businesses and only require them to stay at that business for 2 years and not sell their business
it's
within
different
2
in the
years.
home.
So the
Mayor?
deed restriction is up for those businesses after 2 years.
Mayor, did I hear you correctly that you would want that to be longer for the $2,500?
I absolutely want to be longer.
You're never gonna get anybody to take it.
And you will, those people that have been in those homes in the Northwest section and these sections that you're speaking about, they've been in those homes for a very long time. You have people that want to be a part of the community. The only people that don't want, and this is my opinion, that the only people that have a problem with investing in a home and wanting to sell it in 2 years is someone that is trying to make money off of their property. And I for one, if we're talking about at home Dania Beach, we're talking about an investment into the community. We're talking about people who want to live here, who want to raise their families here, who want to thrive here, not who want to, after 2 years, let's sell it to the highest bidder. That's going on enough around Dania Beach, and I don't want to look at this area and it become an area that in 20 years or in 5 years with 2-year restriction, it would look nothing like the people who are occupying that area right now. Board Member Grace?
I'd like to just echo a little bit, because when we built Bird Point, we gave buyers assistance, first-time home buyers. We gave each new homeowner $65,000 to make sure that their mortgage was going to be lower. But we put a stipulation in there that they could not sell that house or rent it to someone else. And it wasn't 5 years, it was 7 years, and we held the paperwork on it for the 7 years before they can even think about selling that property. As we're talking about, and this is a new era, we're not talking about $65,000, you're talking about 40 for each house, with Broward County giving 20, CRA 10, probably the funds from,
CDBG.
yes, another 10. But there has to be something that, as we're doing that and we're cleaning up and we're adding caveats and making beautification at the same time to adjacent residents, I don't want them to just take us for granted, just think that we're giving them something and then they can, oh, now I've got some paint and I've got some new wood, and now I can sell this house for another $100,000 and I'm going to get the money and I'm going to run. And I understand what she's saying. My house was built in '58. James and I bought it in '72. 46 years later, every year we're doing something, to upgrade it. And I like the idea that, and the concept, and I'm telling you, your whole presentation was absolutely fantastic, because you're talking about building a new home and then making the house next to it or across the street from it better than when you walked in there and tried to do the new house. And there has to be rules and regulations for everything that we do, and I think this is the concept that we're going to have to go after, definitely.
Okay. We can make that a requirement for the Preserve the Block participants as well. What I wanted to do tonight was to present a program to you and some backup information for you to then engage with me, so that I can finalize some details for what I'd like to present to you for the budget for next fiscal year. So please give me any feedback that you'd like. If you know that you like a portion of this right now and want to say, hey, this is what we want to do for sure, that's up to you to say. If there's some things that you want tweaked, we can tweak.
Could we bring something back at the next meeting, because I know we still have some other things to go and it's already 6:40.
And then we have one board member that's out.
Yeah, so let's put it back on for
Right.
sure, and that way we all have time to either, if they want to, we want to speak with you, one-on-one about this and brainstorm things and then come back with some notes.
Okay, so it will be part of the next agenda as a
Follow up.
discussion item.
And
that
possible
will-
action, so
Possible
we
action,
could, okay.
correct.
That'll be,
All right, thank you.
that was a great presentation,
love
very
it.
thorough, took a lot of time, and I commend you and your staff for putting that together. I didn't expect that. All right, okay.
One more thing, I'm sorry. I provided you with a glossary of affordable housing terms, just in case there's, anything within the narrative that is unclear.
Thank you. So the consent agenda, do we have any pulls?
Move the item.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Discussion and possible action. The DEO Community Planning Technical Assistant Grant application.
So the consent agenda that just passed included interlocal agreement with Florida International University for a economic analysis and community charrette. DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity grant, was brought to my attention after our last CRA meeting, and so I needed to take quick action in order to apply for the grant, which I think will be able to offset the cost of the FIU charrette. The grant application requested $40,000, and CRAs, however, are not eligible to apply, so I've asked city administration to apply for the grant on behalf of the CRA, and if awarded, the city commission will enter into interlocal with the CRA to provide the services. So this discussion item is just talking about the grant, showing you the application that was submitted to the state, and letting you know that the city administration has decided that if they are awarded, that they will enter into interlocal with the CRA.
Do we have any discussion on this?
No, not for me.
Do we have a motion to approve this grant
need a motion?
application? Yes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, awesome. Board Member Salvino,
I'm good.
comments?
Nope, good.
Nope. Board Member Graves?
Very good meeting. Excellent.
And Vice Chair?
Excellent proposal.
Thank you.
And I only want, as for my comments, I left you all with the Kimco Realty helps put Dania Beach on the map. I was very honored to be able to do this this interview on Dania Point and everything that is coming, and it was an amazing presentation and a video that I'm going to ask for approval so that we can show it at the next commission meeting. But I had a fun doing it, and it really highlighted the great things that's coming to Dania Beach and a little bit of the interview, so I hope you all enjoy it.
While you're doing that, I have quite a few residents asking me about the components of everything that's going to be in Dania Point. And I know that before they had a little booklet stating how many restaurants and,
She had a thing here.
so if you can get me some copies of that so I can add some of my next luncheons and
Okay,
meetings.
I can get you what's already signed, because there are a lot of different leases that may have changed,
Okay.
or they have some spaces that are still available to be signed and leased. So I'll get you what they have,
Thank
a
you.
list of what they have.
Appreciate
We
it.
probably could get that from the permit department, right?
They don't have,
Yeah,
not full yet, though.
okay.
What is,
Informational items, we have none, so I'll see you all in like 10 minutes. Meeting adjourned.
anybody